Hey guys, welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono. It's September 23rd, 2019, here with my partner Steve.
Welcome back, everybody. Awful lot to talk about. NFL is in full swing.
Yep.
So I say we lead with that, Jimbo, and let's go right to it.
Okay. A few surprises and so forth, but let me just pat myself on the back with the Daniel Jones thing because he had a great game yesterday. I'm not inaugurating him to the Hall of Fame, but we talked about it and a lot of people didn't think it was going to happen for about 6 weeks, and I said, no, it's going to happen sooner than later, and turned out it's probably the best decision and only the only right decision Pat Shermer's made since he's been the head coach. What'd you think of the game?
Well, I got to tell you, I think the first observation I would make is you can see the stark difference in youth versus a 38-year-old quarterback after 15 years. So Daniel Jones had a great game for a debut. Nobody's going to dispute that.
Yep.
But I think as an ex-quarterback, what I saw was the athleticism, especially on his two rushing touchdowns.
Absolutely.
You're not going to see Eli do that. But listen, in his defense, that was never part of Eli's game.
Right.
However, to your point, I said a couple weeks ago I thought Eli would get one more start. If Eli played, you can bet the farm that the Giants weren't going to win that game. So I'm very happy for the kid, okay? And I've been on record. Should they have taken him with the six-pack? No, et cetera, et cetera. But that's hindsight now. He is the future of the New York Giants. He had his first start, thrilling victory, right? So also another observation I made, the Giants Super Bowl, when they beat the Buffalo Bills in 1990, was played in Tampa Stadium, and the game came down to a field goal, correct?
Wide right.
Wide right. So that was actually another observation I made where, maybe good fortune bestows the New York Giants in Tampa.
I don't think that didn't cross my mind
No,
when it
it
went.
should-
And of course,
Any
it went,
football fan should know that.
and of course, it went wide right.
And it went wide right, so maybe the wind is in their direction.
Yeah.
But the point being is, going to be happier for the kid. And listen, it's 1 week.
Agreed.
He just got it over with. That debut was a big thing, and now it's over.
But to me, it
And
looked like.
business as usual goes forward.
But
now.
to me, it looked like he's been studying the game. He could read the defenses. He made the throws, and his mobility was exactly. That's a main difference between number 10 and number 8.
Exactly.
Big time.
Especially with Barkley going out of the game injured.
Oh boy!
So I think the fact that Barkley went out of the game put even more pressure on. I mean,
100%.
listen, it was a ton of pressure to begin with, but the kid was cool, calm, and collected. But the scouting report on him is, listen, he's a Duke kid. He's a smart kid, right? The thing him and Eli both have in common, David Cutcliffe, right? Who mentored Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, and now Jones is his latest pupil. So, as an ex-quarterback, I can understand Cutcliffe, and when you see a Peyton, you see an Eli, and now you just saw Daniel Jones. Granted, it's a 4-quarter sample size, but a big win.
Yep.
But he didn't seem overwhelmed by the
No.
situation, is my point.
No, I loved his composure.
But does this translate going forward? To be determined. But I just want to say the kid couldn't have been more impressive.
Yep.
2 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns, brings the Giants back. They were down 25-10. They were down 25-10 in the first half.
They were down
And Mike
28-10
Evans,
at
and Mike
halftime.
Evans was, had as many catches and yards as Fred Biletnikoff did his whole career, for Christ's sake.
Right, well,
Who's a Hall of Famer.
Right, thanks to Janoris Jenkins for that, who got toasted all day long.
Well, I think Janoris has checked out. Janoris gets his paycheck, and that was actually, as I was watching the game, I even turned to a couple guys. I said, do you really think Janoris Jenkins gives one crap whether
No.
Mike Evans has 93 catches in the first half for
Well,
7,000
he
yards.
showed it, but that didn't go unnoticed by Giant fans.
Absolutely. I see him as trade bait to a contender.
You could have
You
him.
want to get rid of that contract.
Yep.
The guy's a good corner, don't get me wrong, but I think he's checked out.
Yep.
I think he's been in mourning ever since his brother was found dead in his house in North Jersey a couple
Right.
weeks ago,
Right.
or a couple months,
Yeah.
years, or whatever the hell it was.
That ain't
But I
much,
think
you
the audience gets my point. He's checked out. Giants got to get younger on defense. The defense still is a big problem.
It's a huge problem, and I'll tell you something else though. If Barkley with a high ankle sprain, that's not good.
No, he's probably going to be out at least a few weeks.
At
It
least
has
a
to
few
be,
weeks.
because you have to, tender with care here.
And I told you, I love that kid, and he's going to be quite the player in this league.
Nobody's
you know?
disputing it.
Yep.
He's for fantasy owners. They, I would imagine, Saquon went number one in an awful lot of fantasy drafts. Well deserved.
Yep. So we covered that. So let's just touch briefly on the other local team, the Jets. Obviously, they're in major distress mode with, Luke Falk is certainly not going to be the answer. Darnold will be back in a couple of weeks, I'm sure. But they started out 0-3. This is not a good start for them.
No, it's listen.
And if Mosley's out, like you said, you pinpointed that, and he was a key to that defense. And
Darnold aside, the Jets went into this game. The spread was 20, at least 21,
22, I think.
22,
Yeah.
right? And I said the Patriots would cover, and they were up 30-0. And if they really, 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 really wanted to stick it to them, they could have been up 60-0 if they really put,
Maybe.
pedal to the metal type of thing,
Maybe.
right? So the Jets are, I don't even know what to say here, all around stink, okay? Adam Gase growing the beard back, gee, that helps. A couple stats, the Jets were 0 for 12 on third downs the whole game. The Jets offense had less than 200 yards. I think they had 170 something. Am I going to blame a kid like Luke Falk? Hell no. Absolutely not.
No.
Jets have so many holes, right? They're now 0-3. Season is over. It's the Jets.
It is
Season's
the Jets.
over. All right, so let's be real. Darnold can come back. He's probably due back in, 2 weeks? The Jets have another tough game. They got a tough schedule. Cowboys are coming into town in a couple weeks. Darnold can come back.
Yeah, it's not going to get
Le'Veon
any easier
Bell.
for them.
Even if C.J. Mosley was there, listen, the Jets have an awful lot of holes.
They do.
So, no surprise there. New England did their business, right? I predicted prior to kickoff that New England would cover that. And it's a big spread. I mean, anytime you're betting an NFL game, the average victory on average is 4 to 6 points.
No, you know
And
my
you're
feelings.
playing with 17 or so free
But
points.
you know my feelings on point spreads. I can't stand it.
I get it.
It taints the whole game to me.
But the reason I said the Patriots would cover is because Bill Belichick hates the New York Jets more than a lot of things in his life.
Yeah.
So, listen, there's nothing really else to say.
Right.
The Jets are the Jets, and let's move on. But
Let's move on.
let's talk about the NFL as a whole. What were some of the games that stood out to you, and let's talk about that.
Well, listen, I got to say, I mean, I think one of the bigger surprises is the Buffalo Bills, 3-0. And I told you this before. I keep telling my Buffalo Bills fans, Bernie from Syracuse, I said, this kid, Josh Allen, is going to be a really good player for you guys. And everyone was a little suspect as a rookie. But I really like this kid. I like him a lot. I mean, they got a tough game this weekend. They're playing New England. New England's coming to Buffalo.
Yeah.
But we'll see what they're made of. But I think that, to me, is the biggest
So
surprise.
let's talk about the Buffalo Bills, and we have, right? We talked about it last week. I'm a big Sean McDermott guy. We talked about their defense.
I like them
So
too.
Josh Allen, obviously, is in his second year. Now, Josh Allen last year, as a rookie, nobody would dispute the fact that and any rookie quarterback, I don't care how highly touted you are,
Had a rough
for the
year.
most part,
Had a rough year.
struggles.
Yeah.
So he completed, he was in the 50s. I think he completed 52% of his passes last year. He's at 64% right now.
Yep.
So we've talked about Jared Goff in the past as a kid that, has probably got the biggest jump we've seen from year one to year two. Am I putting him in that category? No. But the point is, for him to be completing 64% and have the physical size and the ability to run the ball,
Yeah, he's very
that's
mobile.
a positive for them.
He's so
So now
mobile.
Buffalo being 3-0, listen, are they going to come in New England? I like New England next week. I like New England to win, but I wouldn't be surprised if Buffalo doesn't.
Well, they're up in Buffalo.
But
New
let's
England's
talk
coming
about
in.
the division. Are they going to win the division?
No.
The Patriots are going to win the division. But the point is, the Buffalo Bills already have 3 victories. They got the Miami Dolphins on the schedule still. They got another game with the Jets. That's one game, right?
Yeah.
So before you know it, Buffalo's going to have 5 or 6 wins. And then throughout the season, they are trending where Buffalo very well may make a playoff appearance this year.
They could go 10-6.
As
I
a
mean,
wild card.
you know.
I really believe that. Injuries aside, it's still only week 3.
I agree.
But I think Buffalo has opened the eyes of other teams, and don't be surprised if they
Yep.
have a really good year, and they're trending up both offensively and defensively.
And who's your other surprise team? I got to tell you, it's the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, we talked about this before the show. This Jacoby Brissett. How can you not be impressed with what he's done so far?
I'm extremely impressed, and I'm glad you brought that up because I was about to. So, the Colts, next to the Cowboys, probably have the best offensive line in football. Quentin Nelson, who was drafted number 1 by the Colts last year out of Notre Dame, has solidified that line. Obviously, everybody knows Andrew Luck retired. Jacoby Brissett has just been waiting in the wings. I think even on our NFL preview show, nobody's really seen Jacoby Brissett outside being Tom Brady's backup, getting a cup of coffee here and there. But yesterday, he was lights out. Absolutely lights out.
Yep.
Colts win a real good game against the Falcons coming in there. Falcons were favored. I like the Colts in that game. Brissett didn't disappoint. And I think he's now entrenched, obviously, as the starter there. So watch out for him. He's very athletic. And the way he's been passing,
Yep.
I don't foresee him losing his job or anything else. I think the Colts are all in on Jacoby Brissett.
I agree.
So I would say, is he a surprise? Yeah, I would say he is.
You guys have to consider him.
Because,
a
but I'm
surprise.
being honest. I mean, I know he played at Florida. I know who he is. I've followed his career. And, it's one of those stories where once you get your chance, either you shine or you don't. But he's trending upwards, and I think the Colts are happy to have him on the roster. No
Yep.
doubt.
And just a couple other things. Your Cowboys look very solid. That's kind of what we expected. And, the Eagles are struggling a little bit. But
No,
the
they're not
Cowboys
struggling a little bit. Let me backtrack. The Cowboys, listen, they're playing the Dolphins. Let's talk about the Miami Dolphins. They just trade Minka Fitzpatrick. They get another first-round pick. There's dissension in Miami. I'm going to go on record right now with the number 1 pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select, and we'll talk about that. Now, who is in contention for that?
Tua.
Yeah, well, I think they're going to pick Tua. That's my guess right now. But who's in contention for the number 1 pick? I'll go with the Arizona Cardinals. Okay? I actually took the Cardinals yesterday betting, thinking that because Newton was out. And here's another feel-good story from week 3. Kyle Allen,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Ex-Texas A&M quarterback. Nobody really heard of him. They go in. McCaffrey had a great day, a Christian McCaffrey day you would expect.
Solid
But
guy.
Kyle Allen, man, 4 touchdown passes, looks smooth. I think our audience knows we're not big Cam Newton fans. Is he going to come back when he's healthy and get the job again? I would think so, unless Kyle Allen throws 4 touchdown passes every game, which is highly unlikely.
No, 100% he's getting his job back when he comes back.
Yeah.
No question.
But the point is, we're just trying to jump around here for week 3 of guys that, shined. But back to my original point about the number 1 pick, the Dolphins stink. But you know what? Kyler Murray yesterday, interesting fact.
The most completions for the
30
fewest yards.
30 completions for
100
170 yards.
Yep.
Okay, now am I blaming Kyler Murray? No. But I got to tell you, I'm doing the eye test here on Cliff Kingsbury here, and I heard his post-game press conference. Cliff, what do you think about this? Cliff, what do you think about that? You know what? I'm going to have to go look at the film. I'm going to have to go look at the film. He must have said that at least 8 times. I'm going to have to go look at the film.
Yeah.
I have a bad feeling about the Arizona Cardinals. I'm going to assume they're going to win 2, 3. The Dolphins are playing.
I think Murray's gonna.
I think the Dolphins are just not. I'll use the word tanking, but not tanking, right?
No, they were 100% tanking.
I got to
There's no
think
question
they get
about
the
it.
number 1 pick to reiterate my point.
Yep.
But I think the Cardinals are probably going to be right there, and I don't think Cliff Kingsbury. If they fired Steve Wilkes after 1 year,
Yeah, he can go too.
I think he may very well go. I just don't think he's an NFL-ready head coach.
Maybe not.
And don't get me wrong, it's week 3, but my intuition is saying watch out for the Cardinals to probably have the 2nd pick or 3rd pick, something along.
And look,
And
before
the Jets, too.
Right.
Jet fans, I'm sorry to tell you, with the 3rd pick,
Yep.
nothing's going to get better in Jetland, I'm telling you. It's going to be a long season.
But before we move on from the NFL, I just want to, because I've been steadfast in this that the guy is going to the Hall of Fame, Phillip Rivers.
Yeah.
But again, when it came down to crunch time, he just cannot seal the deal. And I don't know.
I know.
I love being right here, but I mean, this kid makes me right all the time.
And again, I lost a bet yesterday on the Chargers. I liked the Chargers yesterday. They got off to, they were playing home. But to your point, Rivers, he can lay it. When he lays an egg, boy, does he lay an egg.
Oh, he lays a lot of
But he's a compiler like Don Sutton in baseball.
And he's going to the Hall of Fame based on his numbers. I
He
mean,
is.
if Dan Fouts win, he's going. But, like I said, we've talked about it. Just when it comes down to crunch time, just not happening.
All right, here's another couple things with the NFL I wanted to bring up. How about our boy Baker Mayfield? So the marquee game Sunday night, L.A. Rams coming to the Cleveland Browns and to the Dog Pound, right?
Yep.
So, new coach Freddie Kitchens, right? Game is tight, and it's 4th and 9, and the Browns are just cross midfield, so to speak. And what does Freddie call in a crunch time situation? 4th and 9, a draw play. So the research geeks looked this up. I don't know if it was the first time or it's been a very long time. A 4th and 9 situation, and they call a draw play. They get 2 yards. You talk about a momentum killer, okay? Freddie Kitchens, to his credit, as a head coach, said, blame me, blame, blah, blah, blah. However, our boy Baker Mayfield is struggling. So they get down. Game is,
It's still in the game.
it's in crunch time, and they get down to, in the red zone, and in fact they're on the 3-yard line, and now Freddie decides to pass all the time, etc. The bottom line is Baker Mayfield throws an interception at the end of the game in the end zone. My point about Baker is I'm getting a little concerned because his QBR rating is like 42.
And what are
He's
you
not-
attributing that to the play calling, or you don't think he has
I think it's
the ability to change the play at the
No,
line?
listen, the kid looked good last year. I think there's an adjustment period in Cleveland. We even talked about that they were probably going to win the division in our preview show.
I wasn't completely sold on
Well,
that
I
one.
said they're going to win the division or they're going to the Super Bowl.
No.
Absolutely not. But the point is, they're now 1-2, right?
I think I might have had even Pittsburgh winning the division.
All I'm saying for our audience is I'm a little concerned about Baker right now.
Right.
And you got that Odell Beckham, and I think our audience knows how we feel about him. But there's problems in Cleveland. And the last thing I think I want to touch on the NFL is your point. What do you think about Jalen Ramsey calling in sick today after demanding a trade last week, and his Lex Luthor is going to be Tom Coughlin, who's a no-nonsense, tough guy.
Okay.
And you want to have a staring contest, Jalen?
Well, this is
What do you think's going to happen?
You know my position very clearly on this. This is no different than these guys holding out and the teams buckling under and signing these guys to long-term. You know what? If I was the Jaguars, I would suspend them without pay and say, you can sit and call in sick all you want, but you're not getting paid. And eventually someone will make them an offer, after the season, and they'll get a number one pick out of it. But I am so tired of these guys trying to dictate where they want to play and how much they deserve to be making. It drives me crazy.
Right.
And I would let him sit, and I would suspend him.
The guy is talented. Do I like his personality? No. He's a very talented corner, though, and he's going to command a first-round pick.
Okay.
But to your point, on our show here, and we're brothers, and this is how we grew up, and that's our philosophy. I don't know about suspending him. If he doesn't show up for work on Sunday, you want to call in sick on Monday? Fine, you're making a statement. I get it. You don't show up on Sunday, Coughlin is going to drop the hammer down with whatever. With the NFLPA and rights and all this bullshit, right? I get that. But I think he wants out so bad that you have to counterbalance how much of a cancer he's going to be. And that's part of their negotiation play.
Mm-hmm.
But listen, Jaguars want a king's ransom for him, and unless they get it, they're going to just make them.
But when will this stop?
But I think somebody's going to step up in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, but that's what's driving me crazy. That these guys can dictate where they want to play, and it drives me crazy.
It drives me crazy too. But
I would love to see Tom
situation.
Coughlin take the stand and say, "You're not
I have
going
no
anywhere."
doubt Tom Coughlin's going to take that stance.
We'll
Are you
see.
kidding me?
We'll see. But look, our NFL segment was brought to you by Coriano Trucking Incorporated, as it usually is.
Right, and thank you, Guy. However, there's one more thing we do before we move on.
We weren't going to do it, but
I promised myself I would not say his name, so I'll just say number 17 on the team up in and around the Boston area released a wide receiver this week.
yeah.
And when I saw that news, I couldn't have been more thrilled, more happy, and we just had to acknowledge, listen, I'm not going to knock New England for taking a flyer on him because of the talent that he is. However, there's just so much baggage there. The story is not going to end, and for all the New England haters, which is I am one of them, they did the right thing by taking him in, right? So once they took him in, then the sexual assault story came out.
Exactly. So in their defense, this
In their defense.
this didn't come
so
out.
we're objective here, okay? And we're never mentioning his name on this show again.
No.
We will refer to him in whatever way we do.
As the former New England
But we would
Patriot
be
who wore
remiss
number
if we
17.
did not bring this story up.
Okay, well, good riddance, and
Bye-bye.
go to Canada, go play wherever you want.
Nah, he just re-enrolled at his alma mater. He's going to get some college credits. I think
Okay.
he's taking a home economics class.
Well, if he gets some college credits, that means he'll have at least 2 in his resume. Good luck.
Right.
Good riddance.
So I think that's the NFL. It's a good week 3.
Yep.
And let's move on to
The
Saturday.
NCAA, yeah.
Little Saturday football.
You bet.
And what is our lead story with college football?
And listen, I hate to say, Jim, you said it over and over again, but I knew Wisconsin was going to beat him, and Harbaugh hasn't proven anything. And I think finally, when he does not beat Ohio State, he finally loses that job at Michigan.
Well,
Because they got blown out of Wisconsin on Saturday.
Well, the beef eaters of the Wisconsin Badgers really stuck it to Michigan.
And it's just goes to the point where we mentioned him a few times, this Jersey kid, this Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
Awesome running back.
Yeah.
Awesome. Going to probably finish third in the Heisman. At least top 4.
So the point about Michigan football right now, as revered, as respected as Jim Harbaugh is in Michigan country, being the quarterback and et cetera, his father was a longtime assistant coach under Bo Schembechler. Listen, he's Michigan royalty. Let me say that going.
Okay,
But here we go. Has he done a good job? Hell no. You know what? You know what a bad job he's done? Jim Harbaugh is 1-9 versus top 10 opponents since he started as the head coach of Michigan.
I'm not surprised.
And we've made this point. What is it all about in Michigan and Ohio State?
Beating Ohio State.
And he's the first coach in Michigan history
To go
start his
0-4.
career to go 0-4.
And he's going to go 0-5 because they're not going to beat
And
Ohio
their schedule is not getting any easier.
State. I love it.
I am telling you.
And we listen, I'm saying I love this because I told you I loved him as a player.
Yeah.
I've loved Michigan growing up.
Yep.
But I think he's an absolute
Egomaniac.
Oh, exactly.
Douche.
whiner, the whole 9 yards, and I'm glad he's going to get his due. Because if they don't, to get blown out by Wisconsin, and I'm going on record as saying right now they are not going to beat Ohio State. I don't even know where's the game. Is it even in
It
Michigan?
doesn't even matter.
I agree.
With the way
I
Ohio
agree.
State's playing, he's going to go 0-5.
Yep.
But Harbaugh is the type, I think, before he gets fired, he'll come up with a toothache or something, and he's got to go see the dentist, and it's probably
Yeah.
in his best interest to
Step
resign,
aside.
and then sit back and let the NFL re-woo him. Maybe he takes an offensive coordinator job before, but he's not done coaching. But to the point, Jim Harbaugh, the expectation level of him coming to Michigan, he has failed miserably.
Agreed. So listen, we covered that pretty good, but the Notre Dame Georgia game, and we talked about this a few weeks ago. This finally seems to be the year Georgia has a lot of the tools, and I really like them. But listen, I mean, Notre Dame was a 2-touchdown underdog.
14.5, actually, they were on.
And they kept it close. So
They made a good showing. I thought they were going to go in and kind of lay an egg. And the reason being is if you watched, again, the Final Four last year, when Notre Dame faces the Alabama, the Clemsons, the Georgias, right, it's really as good as Notre Dame is, and, and again, they have some of the best athletes in the country, obviously. But the Clemsons, the Alabamas, and Georgia now we're putting in that category. You see a stark difference in team speed and this, that, and the other thing. However, I'm a big Notre Dame fan, always have been.
Yeah.
I like their showing. I don't think it really hurt their cause too much. As long as they run the table, that they'll be in discussion for the playoff. Georgia, I'm going to say I was a little bit disappointed in thinking how good they would be. But don't get me wrong. I mean, that's a primetime game. Notre Dame coming in.
I didn't see it that way.
My point being is I see Georgia just still. They're ranked third. And I don't know, I just had a clairvoyant moment, for lack of a better term. Clemson, Alabama, Georgia. I think those are the top 3 teams. However, my only point is I think Georgia is just a little...
Can they beat either one of those two
They could.
teams?
They could. Everything goes right. But don't get me wrong. My point is Alabama, Clemson, I still think are the creme de la creme.
I don't
And
think
most
there's any
likely
question.
for the 5th consecutive year, whatever the hell it's been.
I agree.
Clemson, Alabama at the end of the day.
But Georgia's
But it was
been
a good
knocking
game.
on the door, and I think this year they're close. But do I think they could beat Clemson or Alabama? No, I do not.
Okay.
No, I do not.
But listen, it was a primetime game. Notre Dame did not embarrass themselves whatsoever. They're a solid team, and they should run the table. Listen, they got Jim Harbaugh's Michigan squad. If Notre Dame loses to Michigan, I'm going to be awfully eating a lot of crow here. Because when that week comes up, I'm going to say Notre Dame sticks it to Michigan.
Yep. Well, listen. I mean, while we're on this, let's give our early shout outs to Anthony and Ted Giandana. Anthony Dellarina. These guys took us, Steve and I, to the Rutgers game. We went to see Rutgers Boston College.
Yep, on a beautiful Saturday afternoon.
And the
12
reason
o'clock.
that it was so it was pretty cool because it's the 150th anniversary of college football, and Rutgers played in the first game,
Yep.
and so it was really, and the stadium is beautiful, the location is gorgeous, and it just really was a great day.
And I actually, I just got out of the sunburn unit after 48 hours. It was such a beautiful day. The point is, at Rutgers Stadium, it was like, when we go to college football in mid-September, we expecting July the 4th and, tin foil in our faces.
Right.
And my only point is, I'm joking, obviously. Beautiful day. The sun was out.
It was awesome.
It was fantastic.
Yep.
Rutgers, listen, I'm going to say something right now. This was a win that they had to have against the Boston College team that, let's face it, that is their, counterpart.
It's a
That's
recruiting.
how you
It's a
judge.
recruiting.
That's how you judge the programs here, right? 30-16 final. I'm not going to kill Rutgers because Rutgers, the game was what, 17-13, kind of into the third quarter a little bit. Rutgers was kind of holding their own. But for Chris Ash, I'm just talking from Chris Ash, the head coach of Rutgers' perspective, you got to win this game, man. Your job is on the line. So I don't know what's going to happen in Rutgers, but I feel pretty confident Chris Ash, if he lasts the season, he's got another 4 or 5 games. And what's going to happen? They're going to turn it over. And I also think on the Boston College side, I'm also seeing that Diazio, his time is kind of probably going to be up. I think Boston College, I think they probably need to make a change. That's my opinion on the show.
Well, they got a lot. They've had a history of keeping guys around longer than they should.
Yeah,
They're
but Boston
pretty
College
loyal.
hasn't been relevant in the last 3-4 years, at
Yeah.
least for ACC,
Yeah.
for division stuff, right?
But it really was. It was just a great day.
And we
Rutgers,
can't thank
you know,
Anthony Dellarina, Ted Giandana, one of our, 2 loyal listeners and, great friends of the show and
Yeah.
great friends of us, and our families. What a great day. It was guy Rich and Nick, they introduced us to, so we did the tailgate scene. The Rutgers campus is cool,
Yeah.
It's a great venue, and hopefully, a lot of the top, talent in North Jersey High School or the whole state go to Rutgers, man.
Yep. Well, listen, before we just want to really briefly touch on high school football, because our St. Joe's, had a big blowout win against a really formidable DePaul High School. However, no rest for the weary. They're playing like the number 2 team in the country, St. Francis Academy from Maryland,
Yep.
this weekend, and this is a kind of a powerhouse. So we're going to see, how New Jersey stacks up against these other teams out, down in the D.C., Maryland area, and
Well,
Texas and Ohio and California.
Yeah. It's
So
a
far,
good
they've
test.
been doing great.
It's a good test. St. Francis will come in 4-1. Early in the season, they were probably a top 3. Yeah, again, preseason type of thing. St. Joe's has been playing well.
Yep.
We talked about it. They went to California. Is St. Joe's out-of-state record lights out? No, but we talked about they won in California. They beat up a good DePaul team. I mean, beat them. Right, so
Sure.
the ground game was St. Joe's. So all about St. Joe's is the power run right now. They have a good quarterback, Michael Alamo, tall kid. He can throw it. He signed with Purdue. He's going Big Ten. But the thing about the St. Joe's team this year, it's power running, it's line play, it's defense, and we'll see how they stack up against a really good St. Francis team.
Oh, I think their defense is that's their.
And we're looking forward to being in person, actually.
Yep.
So for all our Green Knight alumni and faithful listeners, we'll see you in the end zone on Saturday.
Yep.
And on the high school scene, also there was a thrilling game. Bergen Catholic, Bergen Catholic came in number 2. St. Peter's came in number 3. We're talking statewide here.
Yep.
And I talked to a few people prior to the game that kind of favored Bergen. So when I saw the results that St. Peter's won a thriller, kind of like last minute thing. Their quarterback made a good throw, end zone. Bergen goes down 33 to 30.
Had a great
But
drive.
Bergen is not going anywhere. Don't get me wrong. Bergen last year lost an early game too. Gets to the state final. Bergen was the state champion the year before.
Okay, but everyone's been giving them the accolades, and no one's even mentioned St. Joe's, and St. Joe's is really holding their own, and they're going to meet up in a few weeks. So we're going to.
Listen, I
We're
think
gonna
St. Joe's
put-
is getting
put
it
the
too.
gloves
They're the
on.
number one ranked team in the state and the defending Group 4 champions.
I know,
man.
but the way they tout Bergen Catholic.
But
as
the
if they
point
were
is,
on-
the bullseye's on St. Joe's,
Yep.
and so far so good. The Green Knights have, fended off all challengers, but they have a tall task.
Yep.
And I'm actually looking forward to it. This is really like watching a college football game, folks. Unless you go and see it firsthand, and we highly encourage our listeners to go to a game like this.
Yep.
This is the level of high school football, right? So for the average Joe, the public arena, right? You see, an average football team, this, that, and the other thing. But when you get to this Catholic level, especially in North Jersey here, it's a different realm.
I mean, even to put it in perspective, I think the whole defensive line at St. Francis that's coming to Montvale to play St. Joe's, they're either going to Clemson, LSU, or Alabama. I mean,
Sure.
that's what kind of talent we're talking about.
They can pick,
in high
they can
school
write
level.
their own ticket.
It's great. I love it.
But while we should stay on high school football, and we'll move on real quick though, from a from a public standpoint, big game Friday night, Franklin Lakes, New Jersey, the Ramapo Green Raiders, who I touted as Charles DePrima, junior quarterback, who hasn't disappointed, by the way. Ramapo's off to a 3-0 start. They're going to play Old Tappan. Old Tappan's coming in. Old Tappan was ranked number 1 on the public side. They lost a tough game early on. So this game is Friday night in Franklin Lakes. For all loyal listeners in the North Jersey area, this is a marquee public game.
Yeah, it's a game worth going to.
It's absolutely. So watch out for Ramapo
Yeah.
versus Old Tappan.
I may
Friday.
actually go check that out.
I am
you know.
actually going to that.
I may check it out too.
So I think that's enough on our football.
Well, one
Which is an
quick
awful
note
lot.
before, because there was a notable passing. I
Oh,
think.
yeah.
The 1955 Heisman Trophy winner, Howard Hopalong Cassidy, right? And that name is very, everybody knows who it is. But he was a really good player, won the Heisman Trophy, and actually was on the 1957 Detroit Lions NFL championship team.
And a 55 Heisman Trophy winner. One of the names in college football
Right.
lore. And
Yep.
he passed away probably in his mid-80s, I guess.
85.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Kind of in there like the Bronco Nagurski, Hopalong Cassidy,
yeah,
kind of cool.
He was
Yeah.
Ohio State Buckeye, but for all the college football fans, when you hear that name, Howard Hopalong Cassidy, that is,
Yep.
that's
I
a
want to
name
make
that
sure
would-
we brought that up because
Absolutely.
that's certainly notable.
No, totally.
All right, before we wrap up, we want to just kind of briefly touch base on Major League Baseball, right? The end of the season's coming. We know what's going on. Wild card is getting kind of wild and woolly. Cubs seem to have fallen out of favor, but to both our surprise, when Yelich went down, we thought that would spell the end for the Brew Crew in
I,
Milwaukee.
in fact, said that last week. I said they were toast.
And they just can't seem to lose right now.
And
So,
listen, I
give
back-
Craig Counsell credit.
I
mean,
backtrack. And in fact, before the show, we were kind of looking at the Milwaukee Brewer roster. And I mean, even, outside of maybe like a Lorenzo Kane, which is a Mike Moustakas, those are kind of names I think the
No,
audience
but
would know. But let me tell you, you talk about a cast of characters. I'm looking at this saying to myself, who the hell is this? Who is that? Ba, ba, beep, ba, boop, ba. Right?
But good for them.
Good for them. You know what? They're probably making the wild card. You know why? Because the Cubs are 4 back of them
Yeah.
in the wild card. The Cardinals clinched, right? Washington is right there. We talked about that. If Washington maybe, takes a step back, I think they had enough lead time, or
The Cubbies haven't laid down. They've lost 5 straight games by 1 run.
Yeah,
They've been hanging in there, and
okay, but they lost 5 straight.
yeah.
So on the American League flip side, looks like the Rays and Indians
Yep.
Looks like the Twins got a 4-game lead. Again, anything can happen. We're old enough to remember 1978 when the Yankees were so far back, and then they come back and tie it, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
But it looks like, I would say, as we're broadcasting, Rays Indians, they're 92 and 64 records. And it's kind of really, I give Milwaukee an awful lot of credit because their best player is out,
Yep.
right? So that's pretty cool.
I agree.
And, the Yankees and Mets, but also wanted to get to something about the Mets. I don't know if the audience remembers that I made a prediction about
I was
something.
going to just pat you on your back in a second. The polar bear did indeed get to 50 home runs. I didn't think he would. You insisted he would. Excellent. Pete Alonso. You know what?
I couldn't be happier
He's
for
got 7 games to break Judge's record for the rookie.
Exactly.
You know.
And audience members, I don't want you to take this as like me being, egotistical or anything. I look at him and the way he was trending. I
agree.
I thought 50 home runs was within reason, and the fact that he got there and he still's got 2 weeks to go. I kind of now am I going to be bold again? I mean, if he two more home runs in 2 weeks, I don't think that's a big stretch.
I don't think
Maybe
so
he
either.
ties it. Somehow I can see the polar bear with 53.
Hey,
that
listen.
would be a great achievement for
We
him.
both like him a lot, and
We
I
do.
hope he does get the record.
Absolutely.
Actually, I hope he does.
Yeah.
But here was one other quick thing before we leave baseball. Nelson Cruz hit his 400th career home run. Would you have even thought that? 400?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I would.
I don't know. That kind of caught me off guard. If somebody said he hit a milestone, I probably would have said 300.
No.
400 was kind of a surprise.
You want my honest answer? When I think of Nelson Cruz, I'm waiting for when is he getting busted for steroids? That's the first thing I would think of.
Hey, listen. No
But I'm not minimizing. He hasn't gotten caught yet, and I don't want to disparage
I've
the
never
guy.
heard his name
His
even
character,
mentioned. I've never
right? He's
heard
a
of
home run hitter. So am I surprised at 400? I'm going to go no.
Right.
But in today's age of Major League Baseball, right, nothing surprises me when it comes to power production.
But
And I'll
listen,
leave it at that.
we'll, by the time the next show, all the playoff matchups will be decided and so forth. And, our baseball segment was sponsored by Di Filippi's Bakery of Monticello, New York. Of
You
course.
bet, Carmela. Thank you so much for supporting the show.
Yep. And listen, one other quick thing before we sign off. There was Stephen and I, we're not only sports fans, we're music fans as well, and there was a notable passing which I completely overmissed it last
Yeah,
week.
Shame on both of us, but
Yeah.
it happened Sunday. We broadcast last Monday. We have lives, we got kids, all this stuff. No excuses. But I think what Jim is going to talk about, a musician, is absolutely worth noting.
Yep.
And go ahead.
Rick Ocasek.
Absolutely.
I guess obviously founding member of the Cars and
Right.
so forth.
Yep.
But he was a musician, and he did a lot more work. The Cars haven't been around for 20 years.
Yep.
But he was quite the musician.
And he was a good human being. He was a well-respected musician, great guy, married supermodel Paula Petrakova. Back in the day when Sports Illustrated, the covers, right?
Oh, yeah.
We're not going to age ourselves, but I think you can date it pretty well.
Yep.
She was like, Cheryl Teague stuff and Christy Brinkley for,
Yep.
you know.
But I could not have possibly done this show without recognizing Rick Ocasek's passing.
He
in
passed
music.
at 75 too.
Yeah, I was a little surprised at that.
Right, and Jim and I actually talked about it the other day. We're like, the Cars, so, you think of the Rolling Stones, the Who, Zeppelin, Clapton, etc., for classic rock guys, right?
Yeah.
And the Cars were always on the radio. The Cars, right? I'm just talking personally. I'd be like, kind of a closet Cars fan. Like, do you like the Cars? I'm like, yeah, I like the Cars. Like, so as we get older, I appreciated the Cars more and more and more, and especially Rick Ocasek.
Right, because what they did, they were part of the MTV era.
Exactly.
And so they came on and they
They
did their
did.
commercial thing to get
Yep.
exposure to people who didn't know
Correct.
that they were solid musicians.
Right.
So a lot of people think they were this, pop band, but they were more than that, and Rick Ocasek certainly was more than that.
Absolutely. So,
R.I.P.
notable passing, Rick Ocasek, rest in peace. Thank you for your service and your music and everything else.
So thanks for joining us, guys. We're going to sign off now, but like I said, we certainly do appreciate it. We try to cover as much as we can. NFL, like Steve said, it's in full swing. Baseball, Major League Baseball, we'll have the matchups set up by next week, and we'll spend a little bit more time on baseball. And of course, obviously, we'd love your feedback, and please, if you have something to say or you got some things you don't agree with us on, send us an email at sportswithmonoandmono@gmail.com, and we will certainly respond to you.
And actually, you can find us on SoundCloud and also YouTube. Also, I've just been noticing, I think the show's starting to pick up a little bit here with some followers.
Yep.
Thank you to the people who just subscribed to YouTube. Okay, so don't forget, we send reminders out too, but all you got to do is go to SoundCloud, hit follow, and you'll get notified when Jim and I do a show. But also, don't forget about YouTube, okay? And another thing is, we're going to be on social media soon. I know we keep talking about it, but we are trending this way, okay?
Yep.
So the following's building. We appreciate our audience. Thank you for listening so much, okay? So find us on SoundCloud, YouTube, Sports with Mono and Mono at Gmail, and we look forward to the next show, and we'll talk to you next week, okay?
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
Bye-bye.